What's up, everyone? So, Iridin here, House of Zug on Silvermoon, houseofzug.com. This is the fourth episode of kind of going into logs, figuring out what different things actually mean, uh, the buffs, the debuffs we're going to go into this time, as well as problems. We've already gone over in the previous episodes kind of the purpose of logs, how to find logs, the right pull, the right boss, the right info, right pull even. Um, and then we did the episode on kind of what people did wrong, followed by what people did right, where people stand, which is where we wrapped up last time, which was here. So, kind of you want to compare favorably here if you remember. You can even see the gear people are wearing. White tuxedo shirt. Ow! So, it's also not a sharp eye belt that I'm wearing. That's odd. Anyway, let's dig in. So before I go in at the end of the last episode, I said I'd be going into problems, and I will. First, though, I want to go into buffs and debuffs. For example, on Manaroth, there's a lot of okay. So, couple things you want to that we have to watch for. First of all, make sure that when you go to debuffs, if it's stuff that you want if you want to see how your debuffs on the enemy were, make sure you select enemies. There you go. So for example, Blood Plague, Death and Decay, Doom, Hunter's Mark, Ignite, and a lot of this stuff is at 100% rating. If you want to see how, you can click on that, and you can see that at different times, Fell Imps had the mark on them. So let me go back. I'm sure Death and Decay, Blood Plague would show the same kind of thing. Uh, Shadow Word Pain should be up pretty high. What this says to me is someone might have died right here. They suddenly just drop off. Yeah. So this is where the debuffs that are on the target are. And this can be on any of the targets. It doesn't just have to be Manaroth himself. It could be, you can actually have, let's see, you can choose it by person. You can actually have the ability. So if you wanted to show Doom, you just go and click on that. Oh, Doom. There you go. Dread Infernal, Fell Imp, etc., etc. You get the idea. So what we're actually going to look at is now the buffs. And you go, wait a minute, there's nothing. What does it mean? No data available in table. Here's where you want it to show friendly. This is where your buffs show. So if there's certain things that need to be up for you, this is where it shows. So let's see. At 99% uptime on Shadowcrawl, that's some of these just don't make sense to me. And I think sometimes there's a little bit of a weird thing that goes on. So, but this is actually here is a very good example. So Demon Rush. So when they cast, when our Warlock would cast Shadow Bolt, it would increase the damage done by demons for 15 seconds. It can stack, obviously, and it's also it'll say over here. It says the source is a 2-piece tier bonus. And so you can look at this and go, okay. So a 90% uptime is pretty solid considering there's a number of spots in the fight where people just have to move or well, there's just different reasons that it has to happen. I don't know why it actually shows Bestial Wrath twice, but whatever. We'll go with it. This is where if you're supposed to have a buff up 100% of the time, this is where you look. And if you're wondering, how good was my Mark of Bleeding Hollow, your weapon enchant? Okay, so we had about a 40% uptime. Okay. Uh, if you notice the flowing thoughts, very cyclical. Very cyclical. And then what you're also able to do is if you click on flowing thoughts, you can see, so Tracy Chapman is actually talented for that. None of the other mages are. And you can go, well, what are flowing thoughts? And when you just go back, so it goes from 4% to 20% of a cycle. It'll go. It's nice for across the board increased damage, but anyway. All right, that's that part. So we've gone over buffs, we've gone over debuffs. Let's dig into problems. Okay. Wait, Manaron's gaze. Okay. I don't like this boss for this. Because you can get knocked off the side pretty easy. Let's see how Zul'Harrak looks. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So, first thing, it shows the raid's item level. Apparently someone has done it with 530 gear average. That's insane. But it says the lowest recorded average is 618. I buy that a little bit more. This shows the number of potions used. Shows who used 2, who used 1, who used none, and really, as long as 1's used, you're generally okay. 2 obviously is better. It's what's called pre-potting. If you use the potion before pull, it'll start the countdown again after pull starts. So you still have the bonus of the potion without that cooldown. Hellstone and healing tonics. So this shows who used Hellstones. Something to keep in mind, I can speak for myself personally. I have my belt, I'm an engineer, and I have the Tinker on the belt that gives me basically a free health pot. So it apparently it may not show up as the Hellstone and healing tonic, but it's there. I can relatively assure you I used one. Up next, slow deaths. So this is basically, someone died over 10 or more seconds, like it says. In this case, they died across 3 minutes and 12 seconds. That something seems fishy with that. So what you can actually do is if you go back, you can look at, you can go back up to the top, analyze, and look at the death and go, what happened? So, this is where we get into the stuff where raid leaders get mad. This is avoidable damage. And this is basically the damage taken by people who took avoidable damage. This is where people had issues. It looks like 3 people died to a Shadowfell annihilation. This is the purple and the green meeting. It hurts, obviously. It's roughly 245,000 damage. It hurts. Don't do it. So this is overall, and you can go into more detail, obviously. So this is where the damage happens. This is who caused it. A blaze meeting wasting void. This is the players splashed. So these are the players who took this extra damage. So, for example, Zaz was Zaz here is on the receiving end of 3 of these. So, it's not, it says avoidable damage, but it's not his fault. Kendall is on the receiving end of 3 of these. I'm on the receiving end for 2 of them. it splash damage is kind of hard to avoid sometimes. Let's see. But this is the person that caused it, what happened, and basically don't let it happen again. The volatile void step. These are the purple spots on the ground, and the void fiends teleport to the person closest to them. So these should not get in melee. However, this one it looks like there was one that got in melee, but we also had someone in range that got hit 3 times, which is bad because it puts the purple on the ground. So basically, this is people who did not move out of the void zones. Ta-da! Here you go. Up next is Ablaze. So the imps in this fight need to be either killed or interrupted. If they don't, poor Ziz gets hit 15 times. There you go. So let's go ahead and keep going down. This is the Void Surge. So players get debuffed with Void Surge and need to drop it in a good place. All these hits are expected here. So this is where Danger Prone had the death across 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Poor Danger got hit 4 times. That stinks. That just straight up stinks. Let's see. We'll go down to Fell Singed. So when people get hit with Fell Singed, when they stand in fire. So when you kind of drop the fire, you get the debuff a little bit, or sometimes it's just through accidental running through. So 1 is expected. 2 is really fine, honestly. When you start talking 3, 4, or above, it's gonna really matter to me, in my opinion, more. But 1's gonna happen. 2, especially if you're a caster and you're having, you're in mid spell when it goes off or something like that, it's gonna happen. And the last one, this Wasting Void. Basically people who stood in fire, they stand in void patches. Something to keep in mind though, they may have stood in the void, but they may not have seen it because basically when melee stands in the void step, it causes the Wasting Voids, which hits melee, 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 melee. I don't remember. I think Zaz was Zaz was resto, so Zaz was not a melee. But you kind of get the drift. If you're not used to seeing it in melee, you gotta pay attention. But that's the problems, that's the buffs, that's the debuffs. And that's just about all I got. I showed the replay on the last one. The rankings are kind of the rankings. I showed the compare. Analyzes, obviously. Timelines. If you really, really, really want to go in depth, you can go into queries and just have, say, where Iridin used. Well, when I used Dash, that would have been my pet. You can see my timing. Let's see. You can go and create a query. Let's see. There you go. So I used one there. It looks like I used one there. Wait. Odd. Oh, this is the duration that I'd had one up. That makes more sense. I think. That's weird. Is this where I used it? No. No. I don't know what it's doing. There it is. Now it's showing. So it wore off here, and then I used it right in the middle of the bloodlust phase. So there you go. Now it makes more sense. It's getting me confused. It just wasn't showing it. I know why. Because it showed it separate. And so that's what you gotta do. You gotta make sure that you show it as part of the main. And you can change the color to something a little more visible. Make sure it's a nice. There you go. There, from there, and this is it fading away here. So, yeah, this has been Iridin from House of Zug on Silvermoon, houseofzug.com, twitch.tv/House of Zug, House of Zug on Facebook. Find us on YouTube, where, then again, if you're watching this, it's on YouTube. Hey, I will see you in Legion as a hunter again. And if you have any questions, message me. Find me on Mumble. Say, hey, I need a hand. If you want any more in-depth, any questions, anything. So, that's it for now. Thanks. Bye.